Does that sound okay? But I'm glad you guys made time in your day for me today. This is really one of my favorite classes, and I hope you enjoy it. I wanted to remind everyone really quick, of those of you that are walking in the May 26th graduation, that caps and gowns are due today. I'm pretty sure almost everybody has theirs in for ECE, so good job if you've ordered them. And if it's not quite this time yet, you can look forward to this about the same time next year. They usually have their graduation ceremonies in May. And the picture that's up, I was told, is an actual picture from graduation. So most students wear the black robes, but if you maintain an A average throughout your program and you keep a 100% attendance rate, you're able to wear a red robe, and you're considered a red rober, and it really makes you stand out at graduation. It's an honor to be able to wear the red robe. So I hope you guys strive towards that. It's really neat. And I have been told that confetti really does fall down on everyone. This will be my first CCC graduation, so I'm really looking forward to it. Next, our announcements really quick. Miss Desiree, I think you're the only new one in class today, so welcome. I'm glad you're here. Just take some time to look around on our course page and get used to things, kind of how our usual setup is. And there's Marilyn too. Hi, Marilyn. Awesome. This is, of course, a 4-week class. New assignments go out on Mondays, and most everything is due Sunday at midnight. There's a couple things to keep an eye up on, though. Initial discussion board posts are due Wednesday by midnight, so your week 1 discussion board post, your first one, is due tonight at midnight. We have 2 different discussion boards, so be sure you put your initial discussion posting on both boards. Also, we have Pinterest assignments in this class. We didn't in our last one, so I wanted to ask if everyone is familiar with Pinterest. Yay! Opal's excited. I love our Pinterest assignments. Marilyn and Desiree, have you guys used Pinterest before? I think Brittany has, right? I'm pretty sure we used that in our one class. I know Opal has. Okay, you have a little bit, Desiree? Well, hey, I need to send you an email on how we'll be doing this then, okay? Because it's an actual assignment and you get points for it. Okay, and Brittany, you've got it done. And Marilyn, okay, let me put it down. Desiree and Marilyn, I'll send you guys a separate email kind of about how it works. So if you already have a Pinterest account set up, that's fantastic. Basically, all you have to do is find my Facebook page, Shani Snell Instructor, and I'll send you a link to it. So you find my Pinterest page, Shani Snell Instructor, follow me, and then I'll be able to follow you, and I'll have you pick boards to build as a weekly assignment. So in week 1, we don't have a Pinterest assignment, but we do in weeks 2, 3, and 4. Okay, great. So you've looked at them a little bit. Well, they're lots of fun, and I have so many students tell me that they wait to do their Pinterest assignment for like their last thing on Sunday or whatever, because it's kind of relaxing. But the point is too that you're going to have this great online resource page when you graduate with your ECE degree that you'll be able to use when you're building lesson plans or planning projects. And this class will be focusing mainly on our literacy kit and on books. So I will be sure and get those emails to you guys. Make myself little notes as we go along. Okay, and lastly, I want us to begin with the end in mind, as we always do. I want us to take a look at our final project. This is, to me, the funnest final project. It's neat to do. You're going to be doing, instead of a final exam like we did in ECE 109, you're going to be doing a literacy kit. Children are made readers on the laps of their parents. I love that. And we know the importance of reading to children. So a literacy kit is basically a number of things that we put together in a kit. It might be in a backpack, it might be in a plastic container, or in a bag. Some people call them literacy bags. And this kit is something that you can send home with your kids maybe over the weekend. If you had an ECE class, they could take turns taking this kit home over the weekend. And you're going to build a kit that's appropriate for a child anywhere between 3 to 5 years old. So these are things that the kids do, but also that they do with their parents. So let's look at some of the specifics of what you're going to include in your kit. Now, I want to say, first off, that I don't want you to sink a lot of money into this. In fact, some people have put them together for absolutely free using things that you have around your house, or maybe things that you've borrowed from a friend or family member, okay? So you're not shipping this kit to me, you're just taking pictures of it, but you're gathering these items of what you would put into a literacy kit. So number one, let me get my pointer out, because I want you to be thinking towards this. Don't wait until the last minute. First of all, you need some type of a container. It might be a bag, a box, a backpack, just something that a child could easily carry. So I want you to picture them leaving on Friday afternoon, make them busy all week, and Friday comes along and they get to take the literacy kit home. So it's something they're going to carry with them, maybe on the bus, maybe as they walk home with brothers or sisters. And it's going to include details on how to use the kit. It's going to have at least one book. And like I said, you don't have to purchase this book. You might borrow the book. You might check it out from the library. But in the pictures that you're going to submit, the book does need to be in the picture. So at least one book appropriate to the child's age and reading level. And what book you choose is going to be the big determiner on the other activities that are included in the book. So be sure and choose a book that you really like that you could build around. You're also going to have a list of frequently used words from the book. It might be like a flip chart or on index cards, or maybe just on a single sheet of paper. So a parent could sit down with a child and they could go over these words, the main words from the book, or maybe the repetitive words, so that a parent and child could do this together. It's also going to include a fun activity that can be done with the child and parent. It's all about getting them working together. It needs to be related to the theme of the book. All materials must be included in the bag or the box to complete this activity. So you don't want to send an activity home for parents and children to do where they have to find their own supplies. Hi, Jessica. You want to supply them with all their supplies, so be sure and think about that as you're choosing your activity. So you might include crayons, colored paper, pipe cleaners, beads, clay, just depending on what you're going to be doing. And I'm going to show you some examples here in a minute. It'll make it a little bit more clear. So you're going to have your fun activity. You're also going to have an educational activity. It might be matching the letters to the words. in the book. Simple crossword puzzles that are book related. You can find a lot of these already made online or make your own. Or it might be a math or science activity. So you need one fun and one educational. And then you might also include maybe a stuffed toy that goes with the book that the child could hold while they're reading, or plastic toys. So those are kind of optional things. And as I show you some examples, I think this will make more sense. Okay, so let's look at, here's an example of a literacy kit final project, right? So in this kit, now they've bought a bag and done some great iron-on work on the outside. You don't have to go this far. You just need to have some type of bag or container. If it has the name somehow attached to the outside, that's great too, but it's not required. So a bag, you've got a box of crayons. The book that they've chosen is Rumble in the Jungle, which is a fun book to read. And then we've got animal cards that they're going to use for some type of activity. Here is an example of flip cards. So the frequently used words in the book are probably in this little binder. It doesn't have to be made that way. It could be on a single sheet of paper. And then we've got a stamp pad and a monkey, probably for some other activity. Isn't that kind of cute? So the idea is that this literacy kit could go home on the weekend and then it could come back on Monday. However, the fun activity and the educational activity they do are probably going to get to stay at home after they've completed. Okay, so there's one example. Here's another one. So this one they've chosen mouse paint as the book. Now, again, these are purchased items, but you could make a lot of these things or borrow them or check them out. I've even been told that they do have some literacy kit in the public library. So you might be able to check out a literacy kit in your local library and then arrange it so that it fits the needs for this final project. Okay, so it's really just about we're staging them to show what we might include. Just have it for yourself, Jessica. That would be great. Exactly. And you know, I've had students make them in the past, like actually purchase everything to go in the kit, and then after they've turned in their final project, they gave it to like a niece or a nephew or a friend that has a little kid. So you know, it can be kind of a neat present too. It can be a good idea for birthdays and for Christmas as well. So you're going to choose some of these things. Some of these are requirements. So in this one, we've got the little stuffed mouse, which is totally cute. We've got a felt board with mice that go along with the different colors in the book. This one has a CD or a DVD, I'm not sure, colors and shapes. So that might be something you could add to your kit as well, as long as it somehow goes along with the book. Then we've got shapes and colors flashcards. And over here, this is some type of an activity, or it could be flip cards for the frequently used words. And then they've added a second book, Colors Everywhere. So you don't have to just add one book, but I want you to pick one book to be the primary focus. Does that make sense? So you're picking a book and then you're building all this around it. And you can beg, borrow for things. You can purchase things fairly cheaply at like the dollar store too. They have some great educational items that if you wanted to really put it together, that would be a good choice as well. So you guys, hey Jasmine, you guys start thinking about what book you'd like to use, okay? And next week you'll be using Pinterest to look for some more ideas, because there's lots of examples on Pinterest and on the internet of literacy kits that are put together. So I hope you guys enjoy doing this. I think you will. Here's another one. We've got Barnyard Dance. Over here is the book Barnyard Dance. Is anybody familiar with Sandra Boynton? She's here. Sandra Boynton is a great children's author. She has very colorful books, very repetitive. Kids tend to love her. So Barnyard Dance is the book. They've made a bag and done an iron-on the front. Again, we've got crayons. We've got an additional book that has probably magnets that goes with it, but it's barnyard related. We've got animal matching cards down here for playing like maybe a memory game. We've got a flip card of frequently used words, and then in the folder they probably have their directions for using the literacy kit, as well as the educational or fun activity directions as well. So you can use a folder if you want, right? Okay, so the primary goal with a literacy kit is a hands-on activity with their families. Students also gain an understanding that reading can be for fun and for gaining knowledge, either one. Parents will hopefully learn about the joy of being involved in their child's education and continue actively supporting them. Some parents naturally do this. Some need a little direction and push on how to do this. And so this could be a great sort of jump start area for them with a literacy kit. Okay, so let's stop me back up right there. Can you guys think of any questions right now that you have on the literacy kit? The grading rubric is on the My Course Connection in week 4, so you can easily look at the requirements. Let me think. There's the examples. You're welcome to go back and view this recording. That was a lot of information all at once. So if you're unsure after we get off here, you can always go back and listen to it again. So any questions? Does it all make a lot of sense? Does it sound like it'll be fun? Did my little dance there. Okay, good. So Brittany, it's clear. Okay, if you have any questions, that would be great. That would be great. This isn't due until week 4. We'll be talking about it every week in live lecture, though, so that the last thing I want for you guys is us to get to that end and you go, now what did you want? I don't understand. So I always like for our final projects to be perfectly clear and good directions, easy to follow. Okay? So after you've put this wonderful thing together, this literacy kit, you're going to take 2 pictures of it. One should be of yourself holding the kit, so that's proving me that you didn't find some random picture on the internet and put it up. So a picture of you holding the kit, and then I want to see a close-up picture of everything that would go in the kit or in the container. So 2 pictures, number 1. Second, you'll need to have a list of all the supplies that are in the kit, a detailed directions on how to use the kit. So for example, you might, number 1 might be reading the frequently used words. Number 2 might be reading the book. And then the activities you put in the order that you'd like, okay? Oh, you can send them, the easiest way, Opal, is to build like a PowerPoint or Google Docs and or a Google Slides slideshow. And this won't be a very long thing to put together. If you would put each of these on one slide, it would go easiest. So you might have your 2 pictures on one slide, your list of supplies on the second, your directions on how to use the kit third. You'll also have directions for the fun activity and a copy of the educational activity. So for instance, if it's now don't just use coloring sheets, but let's say it's a worksheet that's matching numbers or letters. You need a copy of that worksheet, okay? So those are the main things you'll turn in. So you could fairly easily have 5 PowerPoint or Google Slides and containing this information. That's how you'll turn it in. Now, I have some people ask, how can I get my pictures from my phone to my computer? What I do, and this may be a long way around it, I don't know, I log on to Facebook on my phone, I take a picture, and then I send the picture as a private message to myself, so that when I pull Facebook up on my computer, then I have a copy of the picture. I'm sure there are other ways to do that, but that's kind of what I use. You could also pull up your email on your phone and email yourself a picture. Okay, good, Jessica. Exactly. There's ways to do it. Yeah. It can be done. It can. Yes, and if you have your USB cord, you can download them directly to your laptop. That's right, Opal. That would work too. I tend to lose my cords. I'm horrible. So, good. You guys get the idea. All right, our student question of the week. You know what? I didn't have any questions. We're in week 1, so I tend to not have many questions yet, but I wanted to go ahead and put this up and ask, does anybody have a burning question that they would like to ask about the course or about ECE, something that you've been meaning to ask? Because lots of times the question you ask, someone else may be wondering about the same thing. Oh, you are? Oh, well, fantastic. I really, this is one of my favorite classes. So I think you'll enjoy it. I do. So nobody has a big question right now. Then, well, I think that's good then. That means I've answered a lot of your questions already. Good. All right, so let's go over just a little bit of Chapter 11. And for those of you that are new, know that we have 3 different books that we use. And this one, this Chapter 11 is out of our Intro to ECE textbook. So, you know, this is the main book that we use, is our Intro to ECE. So I know it seems strange to start off in Chapter 11, but we use different chapters in different classes. So that's why it seems like we sort of hop around sometimes. We're going to talk just really quick about some cognitive development theories, and mainly what I want you to think about as we go through these slides is basically we're learning how children learn, and we're learning how children learn how to read and how important it is for them to be exposed to printed materials and to spoken words through books. So we know from a lot of research that it is very important. We'll take just a brief look at Piaget, behaviorism, and information processing. And I know we've talked about all of these theories in previous classes before. So how do we learn? How do we progress? Well, Piaget's theory of cognitive development, and I think this is a great flow chart, starts with the sensory motor period, birth to 2 years. And at that time, a child understands the word through their senses and through their actions. So this is a great time to start reading. They like to look at the pictures, they like to hear the words, and if it's the type of book that they can interact with, maybe one that has touch spots on it, that has fur, that has rough spots, they can interact even further with the books that way as well. With the pre-operational period, about 2 to 7-year-olds, and this is going to vary child to child, they understand the world through language and mental images. So reading books or being read to are very important at this stage. It helps them learn more of the language, learn more words, and create these amazing new mental images that they've never had before. And as adults, you know, we don't get a lot of unique mental images. We've seen a lot in our lifetime, but the children, this is new information to them, so it can be very amazing. Oh, your 7-year-old loves to read to you. Oh, that's great, Desiree. That's awesome. Yay! That's precisely what we want. We want them to enjoy it. Yeah. Concrete operations. So your 7-year-old will kind of be on the edge here. Concrete operations is 7 to 12. Understands through logical thinking and categories, and it does take quite a bit of logical thinking to read in terms of letters and words and sentences and paragraphs. And in fact, I had a special education professor in college that one time told me if we would wait until 2nd grade to formally teach reading, we would have fewer reading problems. But 7 is when they really start to get it and when their brain is really ready for it. Now, some are ready earlier, there's no doubt, but for some of us, it just takes a little more time. So 2nd grade is when you see a lot of kids catch up in their reading areas. And then lastly, formal operations. 12-year-olds and up understands the word through hypothetical thinking and scientific reasoning. This is a great time to be reading on their own, to be learning what type of books they like to read, and they can go into more fantasy and science fiction and areas that earlier on they wouldn't necessarily understand. Okay, so that's Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Now, behaviorism is B.F. Skinner. We learn a lot about B.F. Skinner as we go through. He believed in the behavior management. You change a child's behavior by systematically managing the consequences. So if you reinforce a good behavior with a good consequence, they will more likely repeat that behavior. But on the other side, if there's a bad behavior and there's a bad consequence, then hopefully they will quit the behavior. He also believed that we are programmed through direct instruction, teaching with a sequence of learning activities, and reinforcing correct responses. So B.F. Skinner was really big on good and bad consequences, getting a good sequence with how we're learning, and I think you'll think about that as you put together your literacy kit, and the importance of reinforcing the correct responses or doing the right thing. Okay, and then our last one was the information processing theory, and this is basically like describing how we learn and develop cognitively as compared to a computer. And I think this is, here's a great graph that goes along with this. Information processing. If you look at the child on the left, is encoding and sensory registration. So a child sees the written word, sees the event, sees the activity. Takes time to perceive it depending on the things that they've encountered in life. And this event then goes into either short-term memory or their working or long-term memory, right? Or working memory. So this temporary storage time is when a child is learning something new and they're connecting to it. It's very important that they get some type of connection. And then hopefully it will move into long-term memory where we can formally learn it, where we can use it over and over, where we can retrieve that information. And if we get a glitch in any of these parts, it can really halt the way our brain computer is working, right? If they're having problems with long-term memory, if they're having problems with focusing. So I thought this was just a real interesting way to see how we learn, that our brains are very similar to computers. If we look at the learning pyramid, I love this because if you look at the top, and here's the irony, this is what we're doing right now. You're, on average, you're going to remember about less than 10% of what we've talked about today in just a lecture format. If you read it and lecture, then you're going to get about 10% of the information. So as the days go by, as the weeks go by, we slowly forget more and more and more, right? And that's normal. But if we really want to learn it even better, or if we want to teach it even better, we need to have an audio-visual component, which I do by throwing up some graphics here, right, some words. We need to have a demonstration. So if I could do a video of putting together a literacy kit, that would be great. You'd remember even more. If we talk about it, you remember about 50% of the content. So you may actually remember more of the content from our discussion boards than you do from just reading, because you're going back and forth with other students as well. We learn about 75% of what we practice, right? And we learn about 90% of what we teach to others. So if you ever have the opportunity to teach something to someone else, you're going to learn so much more about it. And with this practice doing this 75%, that's what you'll be doing by putting together the literacy kit. You're practicing it. So that next time you do it, maybe you get a job in an ECE center and you're given the task of putting together a literacy kit, you'll be ready to go. And that's what I hope we're working towards, right? Okay, a little bit about math concepts. Math is always fun, and in early childhood, we sometimes don't realize how much math we really teach. We do it informally, sometimes we're not doing it directly, but we do. Okay, I need a sip of my coffee. From my orange polka dot mug. Okay, math concepts. We teach numbers and operations such as the names of numbers and sets. So 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 10s. We teach algebra informally with understanding patterns that we see. And we can talk about patterns in nature, patterns in pictures. Geometry. We teach about shapes and about space, right? So the difference between a circle and a cone. So we can get into naming all these different shapes and spaces. We teach measurements by measuring maybe water or sand at a water sand table, or maybe putting together a recipe. They may have to measure out a cup of an ingredient. We also teach problem solving, so we talk about what's going on and maybe what we can do to solve it. And then lastly, we do a little data analysis of probability through charting. Now, charting is what you see sometimes in first and second grade and third grade, because it's a little more analytical, but we may be making a simple chart of dogs and cats, and each child tells us if they have a dog or a cat, and because of that we add another mark on that chart or color in a section of that chart, and then we can examine with the children are there more people that have dogs in the class, or are there more people that have cats in the class? And that will vary, but that is still charting and getting them ready for math concepts, and because we use charting all through school. Science, what we do in early childhood. We talk about biological sciences. We talk about the human body. Oh my goodness, they love to talk about the body because they own one and they are curious about it. So you'll get lots of questions. They also love animals. Anything to do with an animal is normally a big, big hit in ECE, and also about plants. I know I've told you this before, guys, but those of you that are new at at the Educare Center at Kendall Whittier, and I'm not sure if it's the same at their other center as well, they have a small garden plot for each class. So in the springtime, each class gets to plant their own seeds and watch them grow, and sometimes they plant vegetables so they get to actually eat the vegetables that they've grown, or sometimes they plant flowers so they can see the beautiful blooms that have grown. Physical sciences, we talk a little bit about physics, about chemistry, about meteorology, you know, even in the books that we read, these things come up. And then lastly, we teach about recycling, about reusing products. Maybe we have parents donate items from home. A great example of this is I saw in an ECE classroom where they built the igloo out of the milk jugs. Have you guys seen that one before? So you can build an igloo big enough for a kid. They did. That's awesome. See, I love that, Desiree. I love that. So these igloos are big enough that the child can go inside. They can talk about igloos. They can put books related to igloos inside the igloo, so it can be a great experience for them. And it takes a lot of milk jugs to do these, but it's a great reuse. Yeah. And you can also go into sorting if you have recycling centers in your room. Allow the children to sort themselves. And celebrating Earth Day, which is coming up in about 2 more days. I believe it's on the 22nd. So that could be something that the centers are planning right now. Okay, so I want you to think real quick, guys. Think about a science course that you have taken. Now, it may have been in grade school, junior high, high school, whenever. Tell me something that you remember about a science course. What's something that you remember? Think back to the projects that you've done in science classes, the activities that you've done. It's not something you think about every day, but I bet you've got one there in your memory somewhere. Ooh, you made bread in science. That's a good idea, Brittany, because bread is all about chemistry. It really is. The chemicals have to react correctly. Measurements, like measuring random things, Jasmine. I remember doing that. Going around the school and doing the measurements. Yeah, that's great. Lab, a lot of people remember the science labs, yeah. Doing experiments. Jessica said getting different foods from different restaurants to see which one molds fast. Oh, that's a good one. That's funny. I've seen that done with a few different variations. Foods and mold. And you know, at kind of along those same lines at CCC, our vet tech students did one where they swabbed different places in the building where your hands touch, and then measured how much grew, how many bacteria grew, and tried to identify the activity. It was interesting. One that comes to my mind, and see if you guys did this one too. Did you do the egg drop in school? Where you had to build a container? Yes. Had to build a container to try to keep it from breaking. At our school, they do, I don't know if I'm going to spell this right. At my kids' school, they built a catapult. They had to catapult a marble and see who could make it go the farthest. Whenever animals, what's that first word, Jasmine? That made me think of one though. Petting zoos are often brought to the ECE classes, and that would be, oh, dissect. Yes. Oh yes. Do you guys? How do you spell? I think that's spelled right. I'm the same way, Jasmine. Dissecting animals. I remember from high school dissecting a pig, a frog, and a worm. I don't know if they really do these as often as they used to in the high schools. Oh, there's Miss Trees. So anyway, you guys get the idea. You know, the daily instruction in science class, you know, you do learn some of the words, you learn some of the theories, but what it all comes down to is after that class is over, you remember the things that you actively did or engaged in, or the really fun things, the really interesting things. So you want to be sure and plan that for your students as well in ECE. You know, they maybe you've got a group of 5-year-olds and they're going to remember one thing from that whole year that they were with you. So plan for that one thing. Make it amazing. Maybe it's book related, maybe it's not. But these are the things that stand out on our mind, not the quizzes, not the tests. The fun things are really what stands out in our minds. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. So those were all examples of when you guys were actively involved in the learning experience. Okay? I do too, Jessica. It's one of my favorites. I try to keep that in mind. Yeah. All right, so we're at the very end. Can you guys think of any questions you have? You think we covered it for the week? Thank you again for showing up at this 1 o'clock time. And not this Thursday, but next Thursday, I'll see you at 8 o'clock p.m. So we'll have our usual night meeting. Got it, got it. All right, you guys. Oh, thank you. You guys have a good rest of the day. They are fun, Jasmine. You got it. They are. And Miss Trees, you'll need to be sure and watch the recording, okay? You got in on just the last couple of minutes. I'm still glad you came though, okay? All right, guys, have a great day. Thank you. Bye. Bye, Opal. Hey, keep up the good work. You're doing great, girl. Good job.